Hi, my name is Giannis and welcome to my video. Today we're going to be doing a language comparison of English and Lithuanian, mostly focusing on Lithuanian since I suppose most of you who are watching this video already understand English. In this video we will speak of some history of the language, some context, phonology, syntax, and breaking down the language. So let's begin with English. English is a widely spoken language around the world and by far the greatest lingua franca across the world. It is one of the recognized UN languages and it uses the Latin alphabet. English has 360 to 400 million native speakers, 750 million second language speakers, 600 to 700 million foreign language speakers, and it is believed that around 20% of the world knows how to speak English. Lithuanian is a language which is only an official language in one country, Lithuania. It is also a recognized minority language in Poland. It is an official language of the European Union and it is spoken by just over 3 million native speakers in the world, most of whom reside in Lithuania. There are notable minorities in the UK, the United States, Brazil, Russia, and Canada. Lithuanian too uses the Latin alphabet. Lithuanian orthography has 32 letters, unlike the English 26. This is because most vowels in Lithuanian, except for the long E, have a nosine equivalent, that little hook on the end of the letter. These nosines are mostly used to mark certain words and mark certain letters as different from the ones that do not have it. The vowels with a nosine are always pronounced as long vowels. Also, more notable letters that are in the Lithuanian alphabet that aren't in the English would be ch, which is essentially like the English ch. Other notable letters would be e, sh, which is essentially the English sh, uilgoje, which is the long U with a dash over it. This just means that you pronounce the U as a long vowel. J, which is the Z with a little birdie. That makes the j sound, which is not a sound that is in the English IPA chart. And notice that Lithuanian does not have Q or W. Both Lithuanian and English derive from the same ancestor language, which linguists refer to as Proto-Indo-European. For Lithuanian, Proto-Indo-European developed into Proto-Balto-Slavic, which then developed into Proto-Baltic, and Proto-Baltic developed into the language that's known as the Baltic language. And from the Baltic language developed two languages, Latvian and modern-day Lithuanian. English had a fairly different path down into what we now know as modern English. Proto-Indo-European developed into Germanic, and Germanic developed into West Germanic. West Germanic then developed into North Sea Germanic and then into Anglo-Frisian, from which English was brought over to the land which we now know as the United Kingdom. Anglo-Frisian developed into Old English, and finally Old English developed into what we now know as Modern English. Lithuanian is often regarded as the most conservative Indo-European language still spoken today. With little changes to the language over time, several century-old text in Lithuanian is still fully comprehensible for the modern Lithuanian speaker. Oftentimes, it is said that because of its similarities to ancient Indo-European languages, Lithuanian is an extremely valuable language to learn studying ancient languages like, per se, Sanskrit, with its immense amount of similarities to the language. Lithuanian and Latvian branched away from each other from the language we know as the Baltic language at around the 7th century AD. That was when the dialect could first be differentiated into two distinct languages. In the Middle Ages, Lithuania was one of the largest countries in Europe, spanning from the Baltic all the way to the Black Sea. Little by little, however, the country was dissolved. Centuries ago, the Baltic languages were spoken over a wider area of Europe. However, due to the Germanic Crusades in the west and the Slavic expansions from the east, the area was squeezed down and many languages were lost as a result. In the early 19th century, Lithuania was occupied by the Russian Empire and the language was fully banned by the empire. However, resistance persisted. Thanks to the help of illegal book smugglers who illegally smuggled books from Germany, the language is still alive. Lithuanian is only one of the two surviving Baltic languages in the world, alongside Latvian. Old Prussian, a very similar language to Lithuanian, went extinct in the early 18th century. Other Baltic languages now extinct include Yetvingian, Galindian, and Old Curonian. English too derives from Proto-Indo-European, specifically the Germanic languages, although it has been much more influenced by other languages over the years. Unlike the archaic nature of Lithuanian, English is a modern lingua franca and ever-changing. English was brought over to the areas now known as the British Isles by the Anglo-Saxon migrants in around the mid-5th century to the 7th century, from modern-day Denmark and northern Germany. Over the years after the Norman conquest in 1066, English has been heavily influenced by external lexicons, most notably French and Old Norman. Unlike Lithuanian, it is much more difficult to go back in time and read older English text. Old English and Middle English are languages very different from today's modern English. In fact, even early modern English may oftentimes be difficult for modern English speakers to fully grasp. Dialects. Lithuanian has many different dialects, but it is mostly split into 2 general dialects and 4 subdialects. These 2 general dialects are the Highland dialects, consisting of Suvalkija, Aukštaityja dialect, and Dzūkija dialect, and the Lowland dialect, which is mostly the Samogitian dialect, also known as Žemaitija in Lithuanian. It is very distinct from Standardized Lithuanian. Standardized Lithuanian is taken from the Suvalkian dialect. English, on the other hand, being the huge language that it is, has over 160 different dialects and multiple English-based creoles. Some notable dialects would be the Queen's English, Irish English, Scottish English, Australian and American English. Now we're going to dive into the particles of a language, the atoms if you will, phonemes. Phonology. Lithuanian has the most complex IPA chart of any Indo-European language, and one of the most complex IPA charts of any language in the world. A notable aspect of Lithuanian phonology is that every single consonant in Lithuanian, except for the palatal approximant y, has a palatalized equivalent. Usually, these palatalized sounds are marked by the vowel that comes after the consonant, for example, e or e. Let's take an example. Šuo in Lithuanian means dog. Šiuo means with this one. Notice that the vowel in šiuo comes after the sh, which marks it as a palatalized sound. Lithuanian shares this feature with most Slavic languages. However, Lithuanian's sister language, Latvian, has lost this feature over the years. Lithuanian has 7 long vowels and 6 short ones. That includes the 2 vowels that are restricted only to loan words. And Lithuanian is thought to traditionally have 9 diphthongs, but some include the iau as a 10th. English phonology. English has a much more simple IPA chart than Lithuanian, most notably because it does not have palatalized equivalents to its consonants. However, some notable features of English phonology would be that English has one of the rarest sounds in human language, th and th. These are dental fricatives. English has post-alveolar affricatives, but no dental affricatives like Lithuanian does, ts and z. Similarly to Lithuanian, English has a large number of vowels and diphthongs. Many dialects have different amounts of vowels and diphthongs. Syntax. Lithuanian may be thought to have a much more complex grammar than English. First, Lithuanian nouns have 7 grammatical cases, which is more than any surviving Indo-European language in the world. These are the nominative case, vardininkas, genitive, kilmininkas, dative, naudininkas, accusative, galininkas, instrumental, įnagininkas, locative, vietininkas, and vocative, šauksmininkas. Lithuanian is technically an SVO language, but due to its grammatical cases, it can be syntactically flexible. All Lithuanian nouns have only 2 genders, masculine and feminine. Almost all masculine nouns end in s, therefore consonants. Almost all feminine nouns end in ia, a, e, and therefore vowels. All other parts of speech, however, adjectives, numerals, pronouns, have masculine, feminine, and neuter genders. Lithuanian verbs have 4 moods: indicative, indirect, although the indirect mood is rarely ever used in modern-day Lithuanian, imperative, used as a command, and conditional, to indicate that something would be if conditions are met. Lithuanian verbs have a present tense, a past tense, a past iterative tense, which is essentially like the English used to, and a future tense. Lithuanian verbs also have a perfect present tense, past perfect tense, past iterative perfect tense, and the future perfect tense, roughly equivalent to the English I have read, indicating a consequence or a product of something which has already happened. English, on the other hand, is also an SVO language, but it isn't flexible as Lithuanian is, for in English, we judge the role of a word in accordance to its placement in a sentence, not the case. English pronouns, however, are the only aspects of language which have retained their cases. My, mine. Unlike Lithuanian, English words also have no gender. This is a feature that has been lost from Old English. However, an interesting fact is English has articles, which Lithuanian does not. The and a do not exist in the Lithuanian language. To visualize Lithuanian nouns, let's take the word namas, which means house, and use it as an example for all the grammatical cases. So the first case we'll look at is the nominative case. The nominative case names something. Tavo namas mažas, your house is small. It can be thought of as the home base for the grammatical cases. The second case we'll look at is the genitive case. The genitive case states the possession of something. Čia namo durys. This is the house's door. Dative. The dative case states that something is brought for something. Nupirkau namui durys. I bought a door for the house. The accusative case. The accusative case can be thought of as accusing something or somebody. Therefore, call it the accusative case. Pardaviau savo namą. I sold what? I sold my house. Instrumental. The way I think of the instrumental cases, it's something with something. It's like an instrument to the hands. Aš džiaugiuos savo namu. I'm happy with my house. Locative. The locative locates something. Aš name. I'm in the house. Vocative. The vocative case is mostly used for animate things, but we can use it here for house as well, stating Name, koks tu gražus. House, you're so pretty. Note the subtle differences in stress between the locative and the vocative cases. Aš name and name. Name, koks tu gražus. Aš name. These subtle differences in stress can have an impact on the meaning of certain words and certain sentences. So now, let's take a sentence and deconstruct it to have a better idea of the syntactic structure of Lithuanian and how sentences work in the language. We'll take the sentence that I'll translate in English here. Yesterday, my brother brought me a book from the library. So here we have the sentence in Lithuanian. Vakar mano brolis atnešė man knygą iš bibliotekos. Yesterday, my brother brought me a book from the library. So I have highlighted separately the words so that we can break them down and break down the sentence. Firstly, we begin with the adverb meaning yesterday. Note that in Lithuanian, today and tomorrow are nouns, whereas yesterday is an adverb. Mano. Mano is the singular first-person possessive adjective. The English equivalent is my. Unlike many other European languages, the possessive adjective is not inflected in accordance to gender or number. This is unlike most Slavic languages that do inflict it, for example, Russian, moi, moja, or French. French inflicts it too, ma, mo. Brolis. It's a noun and it means brother. It is in the nominative case, as we can think of it as the home base case. And in this sentence, it is the subject, and therefore in the nominative case. Atnešė. Atnešė is a verb meaning brought. It is third person, not atnešiau, not atnešei, atnešė. Third person, past tense of the verb nešti, to bring, to carry, plus the prefix at, indicating completion. This completion states that it has been brought over and has been brought to somewhere. Man. Man is a pronoun, first person singular. It is in the dative case. It is to me. It is brought to me. Kniga. Kniga is in the accusative case. It states what was brought over? The book. It is a noun in the accusative case. Kniga is a feminine word. Ish is a proposition meaning from. Finally, we have bibliotekos. Bibliotekos is a noun. It is library in the genitive case. It is a masculine word. Genitive case meaning from where, brought from the library. It was the library's and was now brought over. Note that there is no article before library. Lithuanian has no articles in it. Note, although this sentence is SVO, the grammatical cases allow sentences to be much more flexible than in English. The sentences do not necessarily have to be subject, verb, object. They might just as well be verb, subject, object, vice versa. The meaning does not change. Verb, subject, object would be atnešė brolis knygą. Object, subject, verb would be knyga brolis atnešė. Object, verb, subject. Knyga atnešė brolis. In order to explore even more, let's take another sentence to deconstruct. I like to paint paintings of happy people. This sentence in Lithuanian would be Aš mėgstu tapyti laimingų žmonių paveikslus. Again, I have highlighted the words in order to be able to break down the sentence. The first word is a pronoun. It is I, singular, first person, nominative case. It is the home base case, as it can be thought of. Mėgstu. It is a verb. It means like. It is first person present. I am liking this right now. Tapyti. Tapyti is a verb, to paint. It is the infinitive form of the verb. Laimingu. Laimingu is an adjective, meaning happy. It is in the genitive form. And note that the adjectives also take grammatical cases. They often take grammatical cases of the word that they are describing. And the next word that they are describing is žmonių, peoples. I like to paint happy peoples. Noun, people, plural, and it is in the genitive case. And laimingu takes the form of žmonių. Paveikslus. Paveikslus is a noun, meaning paintings. It is plural and in the accusative form. Aš mėgstu tapyti laimingų žmonių paveikslus. Note, Lithuanian is a pro-drop language, which means you can drop the pronouns and the meaning of the sentence will not change. It shares this with many other European languages. For example, the sentence could just as well have been Mėgstu tapyti laimingų žmonių paveikslus.